Today I'm going to give you a quick introduction to Docker by showing you how it can be used to test a simple Node.js application against many different versions of Mongo. I've gone ahead and created just two methods that we want to test. One is to save a very simple person that has just a name and an age, and all it takes is a collection, a name and age, and it inserts a new document into a Mongo collection. And the second method we're going to test is find people by age. And it takes a Mongo collection and an age that you're looking for, and it returns all the people in the collection that have that age. I've gone ahead and I've made a test case for it. Before each test, what happens is it tries to connect to a Mongo database. It creates a new collection to hold the people so that every test holds separate data. And it saves that new collection into a context. And after each test, deletes the collection associated with the context. Then we have just a single simple test function called save and find. And this makes sure that you can save a person with a name and an age. You can search for that age and make sure that you get back a single result with the expected name and age. Now, to run this test, you're going to need a Mongo server. And rather than teach everyone how to install Mongo onto their desktop environments or how to install Mongo into a continuous delivery environment, what we can do is take advantage of Docker to quickly package and distribute Mongo to anyone who needs it. Let's switch to Docker Hub and find a shared Mongo image that can be used. So here's Docker Hub, and Docker Hub is the source for everyone to contribute publicly to Docker images that are ready-made to be used by others. So let's search for Mongo, and you can see a bunch of results here, but the top result is marked as official, and that's because it's got a special status, not just a build from someone else. It's got lots of stars and 10 million polls, which means downloads. So we know this is a pretty good image to use. And if we select, we can see that it's a Mongo document database and it has a bunch of different versions, but we'll keep things really simple. And we'll use the Docker poll command suggested on the side. So let's copy it and move to a shell. Now, for this demo, I assume that you already have Docker installed, and the installation for Docker is a little different on every machine, but it's straightforward, so install it. And you'll have a Docker command line client that you can use. So we'll do Docker pull Mongo. Now what this is doing is it's going to pull down all of the binaries associated with that Docker image into different layers. I won't go into the details of the layers today, but you can think of them as building blocks for images so that different images can share layers and save disk space and download time. So it doesn't take too long to download Mongo, and when you do, you'll have everything you need. So we have a new Mongo downloaded, and we will go ahead and run it. Docker run Mongo. Now you can see MongoDB started on a certain port, and it looks like we're ready to use. It's definitely the simplest installation of Mongo I've ever seen. So let's run our tests. And it said that we were listening on port 2717. So let's update. Alright, so we're going to run npm test. That runs our test case. And we're just setting an environment variable, Mongo URL. Do a Mongo URL. No, this didn't work. And that's because while Mongo is listening on that port is completely enclosed inside of an isolated environment. And by default, Docker does not expose any ports to the outside world. We can look at the Docker container that's currently running by running a docker ps command mirroring the Linux ps command. And you can see that there's one Mongo image running, and it has a port, 2717. But this port is not exposed. So let's go back to Docker, stop our image. And let's run it again, this time with a capital P argument. Now the output here, if you look through it closely, it's all about the same, and it still says it's listening on 2717. But if we switch back and run Docker PS again, you'll see that now the port number is slightly exposed. It says that it's listening on any port on 32774, and it's forwarding that port to the Docker container 2717. So now, if we go back to our test and we update the port number that's used, 32774, run it, we have success. Our test case we ran against Mongo running inside of Docker. Now, here's the real power of Docker. Let's go back to Docker Hub and see that it provides many different tags, many different versions. In fact, if we read through all of this, we'll see that even old versions of Mongo are available. So let's try running our test case against an older version of Mongo. So let's stop the one we have, and this time let's pull Mongo 2.6, an older version of Mongo. Again, it's going to download any of the layers that we didn't have before, but it's likely downloading a little bit less than it did the first time. Now let's run it again with the capital P, and this time let's make sure we're running 2.6. So now you can see MongoDB version 2.6.12 is running. Again, it thinks it's running on 2717, but we know that it will have mapped to its own unique port. And this time, it's been running for 14 seconds, and it's running on 32775. So we'll run the test again. This time it's going to be hitting Docker 2.6. Great. Our code runs against Mongo 2.6 without any problems. So now let's try Mongo 2.4. But this time, instead of running a poll command separately from the run command, we can just go ahead and run with the 2.4 version directly. And Mongo's command line client is smart enough to notice that it doesn't exist already, pull it, and then immediately run it. Oh, the test failed, and that's because the code is taking advantage of a feature that's only available in Mongo 2.6. Now a developer could quickly download Mongo 2.4 using Docker and reproduce the problem on his machine without worrying about the details of installing Mongo 4. I hope you can see how Docker can really help provide a simple way to test across many different environments or many different versions of a dependency without having to understand all the details.